my friends, this is Miss Jennifer. Welcome back to the nonfiction section, which those of you who watched our earlier video know has fiction in it. So today we're going to talk about different genres of nonfiction to get ready for our winter reading program, which is going to be all about nonfiction. So you might know that a genre is usually it's a kind of story, right? So when we think about genres, we think about fiction, and we think about maybe fantasy, where there's magic happening in the story, or we'll think about action and adventure. It's not a true story, it didn't really happen, but it's got lots of exciting things going on. And this one's a little closer to fantasy because kids are not really going to go out and solve crimes, at least I hope not. Or we'll think about realistic fiction. This is a classic story of a horse, and it's fiction, it's a story, the horse talks. But it's historical fiction, it's set a long time ago, and it's realistic. It's all things that could really have happened to a horse. So we've got lots of genres in fiction. You probably study those in school. But what about genres in nonfiction? Well, an author, somebody who's written a lot of nonfiction books called Melissa Stewart, has done a lot of work organizing different kinds or genres of nonfiction. And you can check out more of her work on her blog. But we're going to look today at some different kinds of nonfiction, just like Melissa Stewart has talked about. And one of the first ones we're going to look at is browsing nonfiction. This is probably one you've seen. You see a lot of National Geographic books that are browsing. This is Why Not? 1,111 answers to everything. So this isn't one that you'd probably start at the beginning and read straight through. You'd kind of jump around in it. You'd browse it. There's interesting facts about all different kinds of things, people and questions and answers. So it's nonfiction, it's true, but it's one that you would browse. You'd hop around and find different facts. It might give you some ideas if you want to study something else and go look into more of the facts about the different things. Then we have kind of traditional nonfiction. This is nonfiction that follows not really a story, although it might have a little bit of a story, but it kind of goes through and tells you about one thing. So this is a book from the scientists in the field. It's called Chasing Cheetahs, and it's about a scientist studying cheetahs. So it starts out with how her research started and the different people she worked with and the problem that she solved with the cheetahs. And by the end of the book, you know all about chasing cheetahs and the scientists that studied them. And very similar to that is our expository nonfiction. And this is nonfiction where you're going to learn about something, kind of like in a traditional way. So a lot of animal books are expository nonfiction, and we know we love our animal books. So this is King Cobras, and it's going to give us a little overview of king cobras. We'll learn about where they live and how they have babies and what they eat. So this is an example of expository nonfiction. Then we have active nonfiction. Now, if you like to do things, you'll probably like active nonfiction because it's true. It's not a made-up story, but it's going to show you how to do something. So this one, Build Your Own Backyard Clubhouse, keep out. It's going to show you how to build your own clubhouse in the backyard. And there's lots of active nonfiction like cookbooks and gardening books and craft books and sports books. They all show you how to do something. They all teach you how. And our last category is narrative nonfiction. If you like stories but you like real stories, you'll probably like narrative nonfiction. A lot of it is usually history. And this is part of a series called Lost. It's about different survival adventures in history. This one is Lost in the Amazon, Battle for Survival in the Heart of the Rainforest. So it's about a woman who was in an airplane that crashed, and she fell thousands of feet through the air into the Amazon jungle and survived. Now this is a true story. It really did happen. She's still alive today, but it's a story. It reads kind of like an adventure story, even though everything in it really happened. And with narrative nonfiction, you have to kind of check. Usually if you check in the back, you'll find out about if there's any parts of the story that were made up or if it's all true. So it's always good to check in the back when you're reading your narrative nonfiction to make sure it's all true. And finally, we have kind of a funny category. This isn't really nonfiction, it's informational fiction. So this is the astronauts. You can kind of look at this and tell that this is not going to be a true story. There's all these kind of weird creatures, and if you've read this, you know that they are blasting off through space in their nose rocket from Mount Rushmore to try to find a new planet for humans to inhabit. So definitely not true. And you know, there's talking plants and laser sharks and stuff. But if you read the book, you'll find that there's actually some nonfiction in it. It talks about climate change, and in this one, the plant planet, it talks about how plants grow and what they have to do when the plants start taking over. So informational fiction is a story, but it's got some facts mixed in. And you can usually tell when it's informational fiction because it'll have some really goofy stuff in it, like talking animals or nose rockets, stuff like that. So these can be interesting to read and you can learn from them, but you have to be really careful when you're reading them to know which part is fiction and which part is nonfiction. So those are 5 kinds of nonfiction. We have our browsing, where you just find interesting facts. We have traditional nonfiction, which is really pretty close to narrative nonfiction, where we learn all about one thing. We have expository nonfiction, where we learn facts about something. We have active nonfiction, where we learn how to do something. And we have narrative nonfiction, where we hear a true story. Now, Melissa Stewart explains these much better than I could, so you can check out her website for more information and for all sorts of projects you can do with these. But in our winter reading program, we're going to be reading all different kinds of nonfiction. So think about which genre of nonfiction you like best. Do you like true stories? Do you like browsing? Do you like how-to books? Do you like fact books? And let's get ready for our nonfiction journey.